Hello, I'm Aileen O'Brien with WMHS TV-13. I'm in Memphis, Tennessee with Sandi Pichon here at Marlowe's restaurant. We're here to talk a little bit about Elvis Presley today, his past, his success, and his later life. Sandi, you have a lot of information on Elvis. You're a personal fan yourself. Tell us a little bit about your first encounter with Mr. Presley.
I was 11 years old. Elvis had just bought the house on Audubon Drive for his parents and himself. And I just decided to go over one afternoon and knocked on the door and said, "Is Elvis home?" And the maid, Alberta, answered the door, and I said, "Is Elvis home?" And she said, "He's sleeping." Well, it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I didn't understand why he was sleeping at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I said, "We'll wait." So my girlfriend and I waited. He had a red Harley, and I got on that, and my girlfriend sat on the hood of this yellow Cadillac convertible, and we waited. And his parents had been to the grocery store, and they came home in the pink Cadillac, and Mrs. Presley said, "Are y'all waiting for Elvis?" And we said, "Yes, ma'am." And she said, "Would you like some lemonade?" And we said, "Yes, ma'am." So Mr. Presley brought the lemonade out to us when he was getting the more groceries and everything. So we waited, and I said, "Do you think he's going to come out?" And she didn't say anything because she was facing the back door where I was facing the backyard. And then I felt the back of the bike go down, and these arms came around me, and he said, "Want to go for a ride?" I promptly spilled my lemonade, and it was quite an exciting time for me because I froze. I mean, I was gutsy enough to come over and knock on the door, but then when face to face with him, it was like, oh wow.
And that's not the first time you met Elvis Presley. When was the next time you encountered him?
The next time was in 1972 at a concert. We did not get to talk at that time. And then in 73, he was doing a show in Atlanta, and I got 5 kisses and 5 scarves at 5 shows, so that was pretty neat. But we still didn't have any conversation. And so in December of 73, I came up, and my girlfriend and I went over. He was doing a session at Stax, and we were lucky enough to get to go inside. And then we went back to Howard Johnson's afterwards where we were staying, and then he drove up. He was bringing Kathy Westmoreland, one of his backup singers, back to her room. And so we had this conversation. I asked him to sign a picture, and he said, "Honey, I know you, but I can't remember your name." And then he said, "It starts with an S." And I said, "Well, I used to come to the house on Audubon Drive." And he said, "Sharon." And I said, "No." And he had started to sign the picture SH, and you can see where he made it into an A for Sandra. So we talked a little bit, and when we left, he said, I guess I'll see you on tour." And I said, "I guess you will." And so then in March, he was here in Memphis, staying at the Howard Johnsons again, and in the room next to us. Everybody thought he was at Graceland, but he wasn't. B.J. Thomas was at Graceland in a white jumpsuit, trying to throw the fans off because it was like this. You couldn't drive on Elvis Presley Boulevard. It was really, people were crazy. And so he came out, and he just looked at us and just did this, and we nodded. We never tried to make a big deal. And then we ran out to the balcony to take pictures of him getting in the limo. And he looked up and he said, "Are y'all going to the show?" And we said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, let's go." So we ran down the steps. We got in Joyce's car, and it was like a motorcycle policeman, Elvis's limo, our car, the other limo behind us, and then another motorcycle policeman. And so we're going through the streets of Memphis at like 85 miles an hour. It was surreal. And I have pictures of all of this. I've written 3 books, and all these pictures are in the first book, which really tells the story.
And that was in your first few concerts. How many concerts have you been at altogether?
About 150.
150. Wow. And Sandi, could you tell us a little bit about 1973 Stax?
Absolutely. We had come up in December of 73 to see Elvis because he was always at home at Christmas. And when we got to the gate, his cousin Harold said, "He's over at Stax cutting an album. Y'all need to go over there." So, if I'm gutsy enough to knock on the door at his house, I'm going to try to get in the record studio. So we went back and we sat down in the car, and it was starting to snow. And a few minutes later, this guy came out of the studio, and he had 2 cups in his hand. And he stopped by our car, and he said, "The man inside," I let the window down, he said, "The man inside thought you might be cold." And we were like, the man inside, so he hands us 2 cups of hot chocolate. So we're like, wow, how did he even know we're here? Because they had boards over the windows you could not see in from the back. Looking back, I'm sure there was a camera, but at that time, I wasn't thinking, you know. So we're drinking our hot chocolate, and a few minutes later, the guy comes out again, and I said, he's going to run us off. And she said, we hadn't done anything, you know. So I let the window down again, and he said, if you'd like to come in, you can come in, but there'll be no photography, no questions, no talking. We're like, okay. I said, I almost knocked him down with the car door getting out, you know. So we go in, and we were not in the same room with Elvis. Elvis was off to the studio in the right, and he had on a burgundy corduroy shirt with a little short waist-length cape, black pants, and black boots with a silver toe. His hair was messy, you know, with the headphones. Oh, he looked good. So we could hear what he was doing. It wasn't like in speakers around, but we could hear through there what he was doing. So we stayed there till almost 3 o'clock in the morning. And Elvis said, did anybody order out for pizza? And they said no. And he said, well, let's call it a night. So they came in and they said, you're going to have to leave. So Elvis was driving a white Stutz, and he sent Sonny West, his chief of security, out to warm up the car. And so we walk out and we get in the car, and Joyce said, well, usually, she said, I'd follow him, but she said, we've had such good luck tonight, we'll just go back to the hotel. So we go back to the Howard Johnsons, and a few minutes later, here comes the Stutz. It was Elvis and Sonny bringing Kathy back to her room. So when we saw him, we just stopped. I put my camera on top of the ice machine because Joyce said, whatever you do, don't ask him for a picture because he has glaucoma and the flash bothers his eyes. So I'm just standing there. And when he got out of the car and saw us, he said, don't you girls ever sleep? And I said, not when you're around. And he said, well, how'd you like what you heard tonight? And I said, we loved it. Thank you so much for letting us in. So that's when he signed the picture for me and said, I think I know you, I just don't remember your name.
He sounds like a really personable person.
He was very approachable, and he was very considerate. If I had asked for a picture that night, which I've always been sorry I didn't, because there were only 5 people there, Sonny, Joyce, me, Elvis, and Kathy, it would have been the perfect time, because after that, there were always crowds of people, and I could understand if he said yes when there was a crowd there, then everybody would want a picture, but I've always regretted not asking him that night.
But you do have a pretty interesting picture right there. Could you show us what that is?
I will. This is one of my pictures from an Atlanta concert in 1975. I had given him a flower guitar when I got this Kiss. I have 6 guitar picks, 16 scarves, but my scarves got messed up. I lived in Louisiana when Katrina came through, and all my scarves faded on each other, but I still have them.
Wow. Well, that's a really memorable moment.
It's
thank you for
very
sharing
memorable.
that.
You're welcome.
Sandy, could you tell us the significance of where we are right now?
We're at Marlowe's Restaurant, 4381 Elvis Presley Boulevard here in Memphis, 1 mile south of Graceland. Marlowe's is the place that Elvis fans gather when they come to Memphis. We have a lot of significance. Elvis ate here on several occasions. We have a little sign that says Elvis ate here. We have pink Cadillac limousines. We'll pick you up at your hotel, bring you here to eat, and then take you back home at no charge. And we play Elvis music. We're an Elvis-themed restaurant. We have a pair of Elvis's snowmobile mittens on the wall here. We have a gi signed by his karate instructor. We have a replica jumpsuit. We are definitely an Elvis restaurant.
And it looks like it, and it's really great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.